Hello, everyone, and welcome to International Coaches Club, the podcast where international coaches share their stories and how they've made an impact on their sport in the US, from college programs to professional and national teams. I'm your host, Liran Zamir. He spent more than 10 years as a professional coach around the world in different clubs and national teams. Some of his stations include Poland, Germany, Cyprus, and Sweden. He started his coaching career in Canada after 4 years playing at Pepperdine University and left a significant impact at the University of Charleston. His last stop before his current one, associate head volleyball coach for the men's team at Pepperdine University. Volleyball took him all around the world as he was coaching different national teams in Cuba, the United States, and his homeland, Australia. A coach who leaves a tremendous impact wherever he lands, and one who will keep stepping up the ladder of international success. Luke Reynolds is my guest today. Luke, welcome to my podcast.
Thanks for having me on, mate. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask what stood out the most from the introduction.
Other than you're pretty good, I don't know. I'm starting to get older. There's more gray in my beard, so I guess the list of coaching experiences continues to add up. So yeah, eventually, hopefully, that list is something that no one wants to read, and it's too long.
Definitely. Well, that's good. As I mentioned, you started playing, and your biggest stop was in Canada for 4 years. You played there. Did you stop playing in Australia?
Yeah, so I started playing. I started late, I guess nowadays when you look at it. I started when I was 14, playing in high school, because our high school there starts in grade 7. And so yeah, I started there. I had a pretty influential physical education teacher that was really interested in sport, and he kind of spearheaded a program that we were, I think, the second team that he kind of created. And then probably by the time I finished, there was maybe because I actually continued to help him coach. Probably was like 20 teams by the time I left. So like it kind of really blew up with multiple teams. Like he was able to field like 3 teams plus in an age group. So yeah, that's where I started, and that's where we kind of began to find the love for the sport.
That's very cool. And I wanted to ask you if there was any point in college that you realized you wanted to coach after your playing career, and you mentioned now that you started coaching in your club as a boy. Was there a specific moment that you thought, I want to be coaching this game?
Yeah, I kind of started to give back a little bit after high school, back to the high school that I was at, just because I always, anytime I'm working something, I always want to kind of give back to the sport itself. And obviously at that point, it had given a lot to me. So that's where I kind of started, but probably not until I was in college, probably in Canada, that I was like really kind of getting after it and really diving deeper into the sport and into um, the tactics and the recruiting and stuff like that. So probably when I was playing in Canada was probably when I was getting more into that. Funny story, I was even in my last 2 years of being a player, so let's say my junior and senior year in Canada, I was actually recruiting for the team I was playing for. So I was actually doing international recruiting and bringing guys into the team that I was actually playing with, but I was helping the coaching staff with building the team. So I was putting myself essentially onto the bench by bringing in far better players than myself. That's for sure.
That's very cool. That's like a coach's mindset for sure.
Mhm.
When moving to the US for myself, something that is very cultural here is not to talk about age at all. Um, but because it's an international podcast, I will say that your career took off in Europe in the professional scene
Mhm.
roughly and fairly young. So I wanted to ask how did this opportunity came about?
Yeah, so if we're putting a number on it, I think I played in Canada pretty late. I kind of took a 1 year hiatus midway through 2 degrees to go back and coach in Australia. Came back, did my masters. So I think I left. I think I graduated and left when I was like 27, but to go to Europe. And back then, obviously, I had connections, but I was like, look, you know what? I'm going to go on the FIVB Silverlight page, which is essentially for like players to like register themselves. And in there, back in the day, you still have access to it now, but it's a little different. But you can go in there and you can find every list, contact email of every country, every club. It doesn't matter the level. Every FIVB had to be registered there. And so for that first year, I probably would have sent out like 1,000 emails. And I was just like, I was just emailing every single country. It didn't matter what level, because at the end of the day, I know never hurts. And so I was just like banging out emails. And, let's say I probably got about 300 postmaster notifications back of like, hey, you can't email this thing. And then I probably got about three replies of um, actually having some interest. And so, you know, all it takes was one, and one Swedish team ended up taking, I guess, a bet or a gamble on me at that point in my career. And yeah, so I went over at 27 and started coaching professionally in Sweden. And yeah, first year kind of went pretty well. We won a bunch, so that was really good.
And that was the women's side, correct?
Yeah, it was women. I'd never coached women in my life, and I was like, with volleyball, I'll figure it out. Um, and probably coached them like they were men in regards to just I was crazy. I was insane. But the team that we had were older, so they kind of responded to it, um, and we had some really good results. Year after, was there again, and I had a really young team. Tried to coach the same way, and terrible. So I had to kind of pivot midway through the season and just become the most positive man in the world, and just pumping up, egos and positivity as much as possible. And then we started to have some success. So yeah, it was definitely interesting. Changing the gender that I was coaching, but also yeah, having to start to figure out some things pretty early in the career.
That's very good. And I think the next question would naturally was supposed to go later in the interview, but I'm very curious. I'm going to ask you this. You moved so many countries
Hmm.
throughout your career, and not necessarily from the men's to women's. I think women's was just that, and then you pretty much stayed on the men's side. But what going around the globe taught you about the game, and how different was it from one country to another, from one continent to another?
That's a great question. Obviously, there's two ways of looking at it. From a professional level, because you're there for so long, it was always sometimes you have to adapt more to the cultural side of ways that the sport was looked at, or ways of training was looked at, or ways that the sport was seen inside the country. You have to adapt to that sometimes faster than you have to understand like how the volleyball is played. So, you know, here's one like, so from Sweden, uh, country, no one likes conflict. People are just really happy to be out there and training, and so, there's no drama. Okay, nothing like that. I was like, hey, I want to get into men. I'm going to go to Cyprus. I was like, great. I'm going to go to men. It's going to be no drama in this at all. Well, basically, Cypriots are Greeks. Greeks are all about drama. So all of a sudden, it's just like, okay, there's a lot of drama, even if there's nothing happening. They don't want to train on the weekends because they believe it's family time. And I'm just like, this is mind-boggling. We should be training a ton. So there was like, I had to have a quick adjustment of like, all right, how do I coach there? And I think every professional country was just a little bit different, more from the cultural side of how it was looked at, and then also how it was like how the club ran, because obviously things operated completely different in Cyprus than it did in like Berlin, Germany, or in Yashembia. So those were the biggest ones from probably the learning portion from the professional. From the volleyball perspective, probably the lessons came coaching with Australia because you're coaching a different country, and like at that point VNL was three games in a row back to back. And so we would prepare and play Japan on Friday, completely different preparation in what the scouting report and how that team's going to play. You'd play Japan, turn around the next day, and all of a sudden you're playing Russia. Completely different style of volleyball, completely different way that they play. And, then the next day you might be playing Brazil. Again, another change of like how they play the game, how their intensity is to the sport and all these things. So I think the way of understanding that this is a global game and there are so many pieces to how it can be played and how many different ways it can be seen, probably came in that period, whereas just very eye-opening that you would just get those extremes like one day after the next. It wasn't like waiting 8 months to see what it was like in the next stage. So I think probably that was the biggest like learning curve of understanding, I guess.
That's very cool. And I was wondering, your base, your fundamentals are from Australia. Was there anything that Australian volleyball gave you as a coach that you're taking with you to everywhere you coach and you still apply today?
Yeah, like Australia itself doesn't have like a very rich culture in volleyball, but I was very lucky that I got to coach under Mark Lebedew, who's a pretty smart guy in regards to volleyball, and obviously, and he's been around a lot, and he's coached some really great places. So I got 5 years of mentorship from him. So the probably the 5 years of being mentored by him and just being able to learn from him and see the game a different way, but also understand the work ethic that it takes. He's a workhorse. He's just working like crazy, and so it was really cool to just be instilled with like that work ethic, even more so because I was always loving working, but then taking that to the next level, and just like getting an understanding of what it is to be a coach at the next level. So probably that was probably the biggest takeaway and blessing that I probably got was being able to work with him um, when we were coaching Australia together. Um, so that's probably that. If I'm leading it back to like the homeland, that's probably the biggest piece of the puzzle that's gotten me to where I am now as like a coach.
Very cool. All right, man. Well, you coached several national teams and professional clubs. What oh, was there a moment that you decided or something in particular that attracted you to coach collegiate in the US?
Yeah, there were a few things. So one of them was my last year in Europe before coming here. So I was at Yashembir, which is in Poland, and backstory on them is a very very traditional and historic club. A lot of success. They went through a pretty rocky period, and then we kind of helped bring them out into the area where they are now with a lot of success. But their culture in the way they have coaches is very cutthroat. So in the period I was there for 3 years, they went through 6 head coaches in 3 years.
Oh
It's
wow.
basically like, you know, December rolls around and the president will be like, all right, let's get the merry-go-round going. Let's get someone else in, fire someone, new coach comes in, and they go. And so in the final year I was there, that's when they put me as the head coach. And December rolled around, we're rolling. January rolled around, we're still crushing it. We're sitting, I think, second behind Zaxer at the time, who were like, at that time winning everything. And we hadn't we'd playing really good. And so then we go up north, we lose to Ulster, which is if you were driving up there in the snow, it's like 12 hours away. And you're playing in a gym that's got space heaters on the floor, and you're literally in a snow jacket on the sidelines. So we lose in four, get back in the bus. I'm coming back. It's like 2 in the morning, and the president texts me. And he's like, hey, you got to meet me tomorrow. And I was like, okay, no worries. Now, granted, at this point, we're still sitting second. We've had 3 or 4 losses and we're playing pretty good. Uh, Pulls me in and he goes, hey, we're firing you and we're going to bring someone new. And I was like, okay, kind of stunned. And the staff also got called in and they were like completely stunned because um, there was no red flags. The players were happy. The staff was happy. We're playing like pretty good. We'd won some bigger games leading into it. But the club just historically is like, we got to change something because it's like if we don't change something, then we don't win. And so yeah, it was like I don't even know. I think it was like March, and it was like 6 weeks left in the season. So they ended up firing me, and I was like at that point I was kind of pissed. The players were pissed. You know, they ended up uh, they ended up sending me like the team ended up winning the gold medal. We ended up winning the championship that year, but I wasn't there. It was 6 weeks later. Um, and they sent me a gold medal, and they're like, "Oh, this is just as much yours as anyone else." And I was like, "Oh, thank you for sending me it." But and the players were like, "Hey, this is for Luke." But at that point, I was like, "What world am I coaching in here? We've done a good job, and still getting fired." So at that point, I was like, is there an opportunity that something a little bit more long term with like vision? Because as you know, professional is like 8 month vision, maybe shorter, because now the market moves so fast. The markets move in December, so people have a 3 month vision. And yeah, so at that point, I was like, okay, what's more long term? Wife was playing professionally. She was like, look, I probably got one more season. So she was planning to come back to the States. And so, yeah, lucky enough, Charleston reached out because I knew the coach that was leaving, and they said, hey, if you come coach for us, we'll give you a green card. And I was like, say no more. I'm in. And yeah, so that was a long, long way of saying kind of finding stability in a place that I could kind of execute and do a project, I guess, is the biggest one. Do you know what I mean? Like really get stuck
Yep.
into something, and it didn't matter what I wanted to do. I knew that I had a period of time where I could try and make something happen, and not just be thinking, oh, am I going to be fired tomorrow or the next day? It's like I'm going to work, and if I try something, it works, great. If not, I've tried it, and I'll move on to something else.
All right. Well, that's a cool story. And yeah, first of all, I'm sorry. I
Ah,
know like
that's okay.
the professional world it's cruel. It's very cruel. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. But I'm glad that the opportunity that you wanted just fell in your lap. That's pretty cool. And you did a really good job in Charleston. I kind of had the same opportunity in Santa Monica that I had, kind of fell and I built something from. So kind of it was very cool and very like fulfilling. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's crazy to think like when you get in those situations, obviously it's like this is amazing, um, and you feel pretty blessed to be in those situations, and every day is just like you can have more enjoyment, I guess, and less stress, knowing that you're enjoying what you're doing, and there's not an axe hanging over your head.
Absolutely, man. And I want to ask you, how do you adapt your coaching style now that going from professional your whole career and now coming here and it's student athletes? American alone, it's different, but like specifically for student athletes, how do you adjust your coaching style?
Um, First year in Charleston was pretty difficult, going from pro to college. And at that point, Charleston's level was pretty low, but had some good pieces that we just needed to really work hard. And so it's funny you say that because like 3 years in Charleston, I told the guys, and the way that I operated was like, this is a professional team. I'm going to treat you like professionals. I'm going to coach you the same way I've coached in the past. And granted, I in Charleston, I was like pretty hard on the guys. Like, I was a prick a lot of the times. Um, but the thing was the guys understood that I pushed them hard and was that way because I only wanted the best for them. Now, because I was able to have that relationship with them as well, which I think is important in volleyball, is that if you can have that relationship, that when you are pushing, that the players understand that you're only looking out for them to be a better player. You're not just being a prick. You're not just being an asshole to be an asshole. And so in the 3 years I was there, I worked really hard with the guys and pushed them really hard. But I also understood that um, probably at Charleston, we're not going to get anywhere if we're just happy to be out there. And that's kind of why I was like not really modifying so much. It was just like this is how we're gonna train. This is how we're gonna work. Fast forward to now at Pepperdine, they kind of brought me here for the reason to coach the team as professional as possible. But in the same thing, I've also learned a lot from the coaches that I work with now about just being able to understand a little bit more about the development of the individual and just different ways of being able to coach student athletes. So, uh, even now, and I think this is the greatest thing about coaching is that and the greatest thing about life is if you're a lifelong learner, it's like you can continuously evolve yourself, and evolve it for the positive. So, coming here, I've had a chance to work with 3 great coaches. Plus, I've got Marv Dunphy's ear I can chat to and chew off whenever I can.
Mhm.
So and now it's like being able to still bring that professional way of training and still seeing the game, but also like starting to evolve into the way of like being a little bit more process driven, I guess, with the development side of some of these athletes. And then at the same time, with the top end athletes, being able to approach them more in a professional manner.
That's very cool. Um, a lot of different programs in the US, if they're not D1, they say, we're going to treat this program as a D1, whether it's D3, D2, or 2 year. So when you're saying I'm going to treat you guys as professionals, that's like even a step up. So that's super interesting to hear. And I want to ask, coming here to the NCAA system, um, what do like international coaches often underestimate or don't understand about the NCAA system from outside, and then when you got in, you kind of realize it's different or better at times or worse?
I'll give you a negative and a positive. Which one do you want me to start with? You
Always
can
the negative,
always,
sure.
always. No, you were going to say positive here. Oh, you think the
I'll
positive?
go positive.
All right, we're going to go to the positive. The positive is that there is so much funding here for sports and facilities and all of that support stuff. Um, which if you're looking at like the professional level, a lot of international coaches is if you're coaching in any level that's not the top, like you're probably trying to beat out people for gym time of someone playing Euro handball or floor hockey or some bullshit sport. And they're like, you're fighting for like time and like all this random stuff. And you might be like driving yourself to games. You might be sitting in like minivans trying to get like in Sweden, man, I was driving us 12 hours in a minivan to get us to games on game day. Like it was insane. It was just like there was no belief of like what you have to do. And so like all you come over here and all of a sudden like some of these programs are just like insane. Like, you professional level facilities. And so like I don't think people understand like the amount of money and funding and facilities and just that's here. And I think a lot of college players, and I've told this to my guys, that some of them they're going to play pro, but they're not going to play at the highest level. And I'm like, hey, just so you know, this is probably going to be the best environment that you're going to be in. You're going to get over there and it's going to be like some dark little European place. And you may not have many people watching you. You may not have the greatest facilities, but you do it for experience, you do that to maybe to get better. But yeah, the facilities that you're at right now are probably going to be the best ones that you're going to see. And I think like it's only getting bigger. Like if you look at some of these like D1 programs, like Texas announcing they're building like a new massive arena with rooms that are attached, and it's like now they're starting to go into like next level stuff. So that would be the positive that you don't understand. Probably the negative that I still hate and like I'm obviously learned, but hate it is all the stupid NCAA rules that are attached to the sports. And I'm talking like how many hours you can practice, when you can practice, like your boss going on about like the 18 people on a roster. Like there's so many dumb rules that have been brought in to the NCAA, and some of them don't even relate to volleyball, but it's that football or basketball have neglected it so much in some way that now there's this trickle down to every other sport because some coach wanted to coach for 12 hours in a day or whatever and just run these kids ragged, and then now we're not allowed to do more than 4 hours a week in a period like on court. It's just like, that stuff just blows my mind and is just like, how do you expect to get better if I can see a kid for 1 hour in a day?
Well, that's definitely a legitimate negative, yeah, and it's also very confusing. I gotta be honest.
Oh,
Um,
so much so.
but yeah, yeah, those are definitely good points, positive and negative. Um, you touched before a little bit about how interesting it is that you have a long-term vision, short-term vision, but when it comes to national teams, you have to change and shift your perspective for every game in a tournament. So when you represent a country, whether it's the US or Australia or Cuba, when you had a chance. By the way, did you have any more national teams or just those three that I'm talking about?
Just those two right now.
Just those. Um, how does it change the coaches and the athletes, other than the fact that you need to prepare for to like a different style of game? Does it change the people involved in other ways as well?
Yeah, interesting you say. I was having a conversation with a guy from Austria today, and we were just talking about like some smaller countries, uh, it's like the ability to get player buy-in for different levels because when you're starting going into national team, um, one, when you're a professional, you're playing 8 months and then you're expected to go 4 months straight into national team. So the buy-in for guys that are at a senior level, like the highest level, you have to find a way to be like, hey, you should do national team and come and play 12 months of the year. It's going to be taxing on your body, but you have to find a way to like really want them to be hungry to do something because if they don't have this um, like goal or vision or something that's going to motivate them, then most of these guys just start saying no to national team. So you got to start to find these like reasons to pull them back to train and to compete for the federation. And then on the flip, you got these junior guys that you got to come in and you have to find ways to develop them, ways to get them on the court and ways to be like proud to represent your country. So it's like the way when it comes to those things, it's like, all right, how do I how do I create the culture that guys are going to want to play and that guys are going to want to travel and be away from their families because by then most of the national team guys have got kids. And so um, you got to do it and you got to do it really fast because you might come in and it's like 2 week training camp and you're into VNL. And sometimes you might get a month, sometimes you don't. Australia, we had multiple times where it was like you got a 2 week training camp and then you're playing. And it's just like, okay, I got to get the guys here. That's going to take time. And then I'm going to figure out like, how to get the best out of them to prepare for these countries. And so everything is like obviously amplified when you've got such a short period of time and preparation periods, and you now start to see a lot of these coaches like load managing and really picking and choosing what rounds people play in, and as the coach they might take some heat, but I think guys like Gerbic, who's done a great job with Poland, like every year he's got a different plan of who's playing in what rounds, who's going to be prepared for VNL finals or world championships and stuff like this. So I think the more successful coaches that have got these visions, and probably De Giorgi for Italy is the guy that's crushing that. He's playing his U23s team in a VNL final, and everyone thinks he's crazy. And he's winning medals. So uh, they're the ones that are that, have this like bigger vision in a really short window. So a lot of planning goes into that. It's kind of like I said, amplified. You've got to have that vision, and you got to be able to convince people to have that buy-in to that vision pretty fast.
That's awesome. And I want to focus on you right now. And it's also connected to the last sentence of what you just said. But when you go into a new program, uh, and you moved quite a lot, how do you build trust right away with all the different rosters and the admins and so on? Take out the story of you got sacked in Poland, but you need to go to a new place and rebuild essentially.
Good question. Probably like, yeah, I think the biggest one is obviously setting up relationships before you even got your feet on the ground. Like, if I'm signing a contract to go somewhere in professional, usually, okay, if you get lucky, you can sign early. If not, maybe it's May. And so I got 4 months to really build a relationship with who I'm going to work with, if it's players, if it's the staff, if it's the president. And so I've always kind of prided myself on keeping communications always, always with people. And even to this day, like my checklist for the week has 30 names at the bottom of it. And it's like, these are the people you're catching up with this week. And it's not just to go, it's never to say, hey, I need something. It's to be like on the level of, hey, how are your kids? How was Christmas? How was New Year? Like, just to get to know people on like the human level, and you can start to build that before you're even there. And so now with the way communication is you can do so much before your feet are on the ground, so that when you show up, um, you're not just a stranger walking into the locker room for the first day. And yeah, the more that been able to do that and set up those kind of things, the I think the more successful we've kind of been. And in Poland, the 3 years I was there, the first time they met the coach and the first time everyone met each other was when first day of practice, locker room talk with the president, let's go practice. So when I got the head coaching role, I was like, all right, this can't be the first time people meet each other. We have to do something here. And so me and the staff set up this giant barbecue that we had. We set it up at some lake somewhere. Um, the guys came in. We kind of went over like what the plans were for the season. I'd made a handbook, kind of went over that. It was like, I was like, all right, now you got a whole bunch of meats. We've picked up a whole bunch of beers for you guys. Well, I'll have one with you guys, and then I'll see you guys later. I said, I'll see you in a week. And so those guys, over that meal, over having definitely a few more than one beers,
Hmm.
grew a friendship before we'd even hit the court. And so I think the more you can do that, the more you'll start to access like being able to build that trust, build that like being able to relate to someone. So um, yeah, always just trying to set up as much as humanly possible before you're in that situation.
That's perfect. That's awesome. And it's nice that you do that too. A lot of people say how connections and communication is important, but to follow through is the rough part.
Definitely.
Um, and then the next question for you is, you had really bold moves, right, in your career, not just teams, but continents and countries. When, like, how do you know when to take a risk and what pushes you one way or another?
Probably ambition would be the biggest one. I think you're always like, I don't know. When I first started out, I was like, all right, what's next? What's the ambition? How do I work my way up this like the ladder and get myself to a position where I'm like able to coach at the highest level possible and just be hungry to constantly do that. I think that's like for sure ambition drives that part. And sometimes, you might be more ambitious than you probably should be, but I think that's a part of being hungry. And that for sure, like I said, when I was sending out all those emails, no no never hurts. And even when I was like, I didn't have an agent when I was coaching I didn't have an agent until my last year. And so I did like just all that communication was through like networking and just continuing to, like you said, become real with people. And yeah, it was just like constant ambition of like, all right, how can I become better and push myself and also try to work at the highest levels. And yeah, I got lucky with a couple of things, but I also learned a lot of lessons. Being overly ambitious. Um, I learned some lessons. I learned some good lessons. I learned some hard lessons, but um, yeah, that you can fall back on those lessons, and even to this day, which is great.
What's the with that being said, what's the hardest decision you had to make in your career?
Decision. I don't know if a decision.
It
Because
was in your control, obviously.
yeah, those ones are tough because it's like sometimes you get job offers and it's like, which one do I go with? What's the right thing? Probably the biggest one would have been like coming to America, probably was the biggest one because it was like, I'm going to completely pivot here and go away from like coaching professionally. That was probably the biggest one. I think, uh, yeah, probably that was probably the one where it's like, all right, hey, I'm going to do this. Man, I'm
Yeah.
literally taking myself out of the market. So maybe that was probably the hardest one. But with the, yeah, kind of more of a long-term vision.
Yeah, we have that in common. Funny story, my wife always tells that before we got married here and I moved to the US for her essentially.
Mhm.
And she always says how romantic it is and this and that. And I was like, look, man, worst case, I would have gone back. Like that's the worst case that could have happened. I took a chance
Yeah.
and luckily it worked. Um Okay, towards the end here, I want to kind of start concluding, but I do have a couple more questions. What keeps you excited about coaching today at Pepperdine, or just generally?
I did for me, coaching is like problem solving and just I think it's really cool that you got to constantly kind of figure out like how to make your team good, how to make individuals good, how to win games. And my wife probably hates me because I'm always working on the couch, even when we're watching shows together. I'm actually usually it's background noise and I'm just working away. Off days working, but it's just like the rush of just like the stimulation of like trying to figure things out or trying to find out what the best way to do something is. Like that's what that and like the ambition of like trying to continue to find ways to be the best, both as a coach and as a team and as a players. It's like that's the rush for me. And then when it comes to games, like I don't know, you could probably see some videos of me on the sideline. It's just I don't get to compete anymore, but I'm definitely on the sidelines, going through the emotions with the guys, and I'm sure Jay can tell you about many stories of me probably losing my mind on the sidelines in Charleston, and yeah, just competing, I think, is the other one. This is my avenue to be a gladiator in the Colosseum, as they say, and go to war every day with the guys. And so, yeah, just the problem solving part of it and getting to compete is the rush.
Very cool. Do you have anything? What's next for you? Anything on that you're planning on doing? Any move?
There's a couple of things cooking right now. A couple of things cooking. I got a couple of interviews this week for a federation job. Would allow me. I won't say. I can't probably say who, but it would allow me to still do both. But it'd be the head coach of another national team. So um, that's cooking. But
Exciting. Very good.
yeah, for sure, it's exciting. It's a situation where it'd be like probably then make a decision of staying to assistant coach with USA or putting the head coaching hat on. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's what's cooking like literally this week. So you're
Good
mate,
luck.
if you want a news part, that's a breaking news right there.
I'll give you I don't think you need my advice, but I'll say some. I'll give you a piece of advice that John from UCLA, John Hawk, told me. I told him I had an opportunity in the middle of my season in Santa Monica, and he pointed at my logo and said, "They'll be okay. You take care of you." So
Mhm.
that's good. Couple more questions towards the end. Any advice that if a young Australian volleyball, not volleyball, not Australian, young coach listening to us and want to come to the US, there is any piece of advice that you can give them?
Yeah, obviously, like it's the pathway is never easy, but never be deterred by anything. It doesn't matter if it's people telling you you can't do it, if it's people saying no, if it's applying for jobs and not getting it. Like, if you really want it, you'll find a way to make it happen. And, both of us are sitting here in the States, and I'm sure that both of us have gone through a lot of situations where it was like, didn't think we were going to be here. But if you just keep with your vision, keep with your goals, and it might not happen the way you think. You may have to find a side door to get in there. But if you continue to kind of keep plugging away and working towards whatever your goal is, um, then I think you'll get closer than you think, if not achieve it.
Very cool. That's cool, man. I want you to tell me your favorite encore drill.
Ooh, favorite encore drill. There's so many like, oh man, I got so many sixes drills, but anytime that is multiple balls, I love like sequences. So like the individual has to do multiple, if we're doing technical work, multiple drills that are game simulated that they can repeat multiple times. So it may be like, I don't know, you would block, transition, attack a ball, come off, pass a free ball, do something like, I don't know. There's so many different sequences that you can
Yep.
do and think your
Yep.
way through. But I think that in itself, one is a lot of technical stuff. Two is you can game simulate it at a pretty high speed, and then you can get some sort of a conditioning out of it. But anytime someone's doing that, but when you're in that situation, you can also test them to try different technical things. Um, and put them in situations that you want to put them in, that I think you can get a lot out of no matter how many people are in the gym.
Very good. Is there a funny or most memorable story that you have while here in the US that you can share?
Uh, oh, they were funny as every day because all I do is just bullshit and banter with people at work every single place I've been to. That's me.
That's
Um,
good. So you're the
mem
fun. You're the fun part of
I try to
everything.
be. I try to
Okay.
be. I'm in a black shirt today, but if you went out with me, I'm going out for Mexican later tonight, and I'll be in some outrageous outfit for sure. But I would say memorable moment as a coach probably was second year at Charleston. Um, Coming in the program, I only won 4 games. And second year, we were pretty good. And we went up to Ohio State and we ended up winning in four on their home gym. And they were ranked and they were good. And we went in there and we beat them in four. Probably could have dusted them in three, but we didn't. And I just remember just like one, it was memorable for the guys because the guys that were on the court, I think I'd only added 2 pieces to the court at that time that were really good. But the guys had never felt that feeling of a really big win or playing at a really high level because in that game our team played like outrageously good. And so for them to one feel what it felt like to play at a high level, to feel that big emotion of winning, and from a coaching perspective to be like, um, okay, wow, we've done something pretty special here, being like unranked, whatever, um, was pretty memorable. Like lucky my wife was there. There was a lot of family there, so after the game, everyone was able to enjoy it together. So probably from that perspective, that one was probably like the most memorable um, feeling. Even like it's been a lot. Like we
Yeah.
won PSF champions last year, and that was a pretty cool feeling. But
Hmm.
the other one was like literally taking us from nothing to like something that was pretty special.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, look, man. All right, so I want to finish off with a quick speed round of questions. I'm going to ask you something. You can answer back in a word or two, or as many as you think that will kind of cover that. You ready for that? Okay, cool.
I'm ready.
So, pro volleyball or college volleyball?
Pro,
Pro. Best country you've coached in.
Poland.
Best lesson Europe taught you.
Be yourself no matter what.
Europe specifically, huh? That's cool.
Berlin told me that one.
The biggest myth American have about international volleyball.
They would have to know something about the Europe to actually have a myth. So
God,
there isn't one.
it's a good answer. biggest myth, biggest myth internationals have about NCAA volleyball.
That it's just college kids on court and they don't have any idea. But there's some freak athletes here, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. Recruiting trait that you value the most.
Internationals. That's it. Just that's my realm.
I remember that. Red flag in a player.
Um, not being a good teammate. Like just the in between plays when you're watching videos, not watching the actions, but the way that they react between plays.
Okay, that's good. Would you like to coach the same team with your wife one day?
Oh, she's sitting over here. She's like throwing her hands up, like, yes. We've had this conversation. Like spending that much time together. We love each other dearly. But that one would, I think we could do it. I think we could do it for sure. But yeah, probably knowing her, she'll probably the head coach, and I'll be some stooge sitting down the end of the bench, just tracking lines and stuff, and just telling her how to help.
You got out of it very good, Luke. I have to give it to you. If not a coach, what would you be?
I studied to be a teacher, so I would be a teacher, which technically I am, but probably a PE teacher.
That's cool, man. And last one, representing the United States or Australia?
Ooh, this is a spicy one. Also breaking news, I applied to be a citizen of the US. So, uh,
Congrats.
LA 28 is going to be before Brisbane 32. So, I'll go the safe route. I'll go with USA.
Okay, that's good, man. Luke, thank you. Thank you so much. I know it's in the middle of the season and you're busy, and I appreciate that the fact that you spaced some time out for doing this. It was definitely fun, I have to say. And it was fun to get to know you a little bit more and your philosophies. I heard a lot about you. We're in the same world, but we never kind of met. So, I know obviously Jonathan and Matt. We coached together at MB Surf, and
Mhm.
Wex. We coached together at MB Surf. So when you see all those
Oh,
guys,
I'll
tell
follow
them I
them.
love them. And Scott, of course, from the women's side. So it's just Pepperdine is a really, really good family, and I'm glad that you find a good spot over there. I want to wish you success with whatever you do, whatever wifey's going to do. I'm sure you're going to do great things together. So thank you very much for sharing everything. And was there anything else that you wanted to add yourself?
No, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, mate. And like you said, I hope this can help someone, even if it reaches out to one or two people that helps them achieve their goal. I think it's that you being able to do that and provide this resource is amazing. So credit to you and following up and setting this all up.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of International Coaches Club. Today it was Luke Reynolds, Associate Head Coach at Pepperdine University for the men's volleyball team. My takes from this interview is pretty simple. Volleyball and sports in general can take you all over the world if you're just open to it, if you just work hard, like Luke mentioned. Ambition is his number one cause for all of his international success. And I truly believe that this is something that can take any other coaches, anyone who really wants to succeed anywhere they would like. So he was coaching national teams, whether it's in Australia, the Americas, professional teams in Europe, all around the world. He started very young because he's so ambitious and is very, very clever. From being from the volleyball world, I see firsthand how successful he is and the way he thinks. So I really appreciate him. He's a really, really funny guy, which also, it's part of his charm, and that's also the way he builds success. But yeah, I think that's my biggest takeaway from this interview is that if you have enough ambition and you really, really wanted it, you can do it. As he said, as an advice to someone, work hard and believe in yourself, and you can succeed. So thank you very much for listening again. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube to see the video as well. Please like, share, subscribe, everything that it involves. And I look forward to see you on the next episode of International Coaches Club. See ya.